It's the spring of 1962, and Sam Cooke's Bring It On Home to Me is playing on every corner jukebox, its soul-stirring promise echoing through black neighborhoods across the South. The top-rated show on television is the Beverly Hillbillies, but there's nothing funny happening behind the curtains of a dimly lit, segregated maternity ward in Georgia. A black woman is in labor. Too soon, nurses whisper. A doctor glances at the chart with more skepticism than urgency. And when that tiny child finally arrives, small enough to fit in two palms, no one says congratulations. No one even smiles. Because in this America, in this year, in this skin, being born premature isn't just a medical emergency, it's a judgment. Scope News launched an investigation into what it really meant to be born premature while black. And what we found was far worse than neglect. It was designed. Because back in Jim Crow America, a premature black child didn't just arrive too early. They arrived into a system already convinced they wouldn't make it. A system that called their bodies weak, their minds defective, and their survival a burden. A baby that needed oxygen and warmth might be met instead with suspicion and silence. And if they survived, their very existence became a whisper in the community, a coded warning that they might be slow, different, or not right. That stereotype didn't fall from the sky. It was built, brick by brick, from the twisted logic of eugenics, racial medicine, and institutional neglect. In the early 1900s, before modern neonatal care existed, doctors commonly referred to premature babies as weaklings. That was the clinical term. But when the eugenics movement exploded in popularity, with its obsession over who was fit to live, prematurity took on a new meaning. It became a symbol of imperfection. And for a racist society, it became an easy excuse to label black babies as mentally deficient, even without evidence. Medical journals from the late 1800s and early 1900s contain chilling links, grouping premature infants with the feeble-minded, equating fragility with intellectual inferiority. And once those ideas took root, they never really let go. They became the undercurrent of how teachers judged black children, how doctors ignored black mothers, and how hospitals decided who got care and who didn't. Now layer on segregation. Hospitals in the Jim Crow South were divided by race, and the difference in care was catastrophic. In 1964, in Tampa, Florida, a pediatrician recalled walking into a segregated nursery where 15 premature black babies were crammed into one ward with a single isolette. Many were jaundiced, underfed, and left to suffer. He had to fight to move them into the better-equipped section of the hospital. That single act of compassion forced integration of the nursery, but it came too late for many. This wasn't rare, this was the rule. Black mothers often delivered in back rooms, makeshift clinics, or segregated wings with outdated equipment and fewer nurses. If their baby came early, they were expected to pray, not demand. Because the care that could have saved their child's life was rationed, withheld, or denied outright. And yet, even in a system designed to discard them, some premature black children rose anyway. Not because they were given more, but because they fought through less. They survived neglect, wore down stigma, and outran every assumption made about their worth. One of them was born in the summer of 1940, in the backwoods of segregated Tennessee, 4.5 pounds. The 20th of 22 children. Doctors barely blinked. They didn't expect her to survive. By age 4, she had polio. By age 7, she still wore a brace. They said she'd never walk without it, but they didn't know her name. Wilma Rudolph. By 12, she ditched the brace. By 16, she made the U.S. Olympic team. And by 20, she became the first American woman to win 3 gold medals in a single Olympic Games. The girl born too small, too sick, and too black for the system to care, sprinted her way into history and shattered every lie told about premature black children along the way. And if that child survived, against all odds like Wilma, the community braced for the aftermath, in whispers, in coded language. He came early, they'd say. She was small. People understood what that meant, or what they were told it meant. Because a premature black baby in America didn't just face oxygen loss. They faced opportunity loss. They were tracked early in school, watched closely for signs of struggle, labeled faster, given fewer chances. And when they showed developmental delays, often caused by the very medical neglect they endured, it became proof of a lie America had already decided was true. This wasn't medicine, it was judgment with a stethoscope. The school system didn't help either. IQ tests, many of them racially biased, were used to label and separate. And a child with a history of prematurity, especially one who was black, was seen as more likely to be behind. Teachers made assumptions, principals nodded in agreement. Well, he was born early, they'd say. You know how that goes. But they never said what really mattered. He was born into a country that didn't want him to succeed. Even within families, the pain lingered. Black parents were told not to expect too much. Mothers blamed themselves. Grandmothers carried quiet shame. The idea that prematurity equaled defectiveness didn't just float in the air. It was whispered in kitchens, baked into decisions, and passed down like inherited fear. And that fear didn't disappear with desegregation, it evolved. Today, black babies are still almost twice as likely to be born premature. Black mothers are still far more likely to die during childbirth. And despite all the advances in neonatal care, black children still face worse outcomes after being born too soon. Why? Because racism still shapes who gets quality prenatal care. Because stress from discrimination still harms maternal health. The legacy of segregated medicine still lives in hospital zip codes, in underfunded clinics, in doctors who don't listen, and in policies that don't protect. Researchers now call it weathering, the idea that the body literally wears down from constant stress, from racism, from surviving in a country that treats you as a threat. That wear and tear shows up in birth outcomes, in maternal death rates, in preterm delivery statistics. But for many black families, this isn't a theory, it's a memory. They remember the baby who didn't make it, the one who was too small, the one who was born early and judged forever. They remember the look on the nurse's face, the silence in the room, the labels that came later, slow, simple, behind. And they remember how quickly the world blamed the child instead of the system. Because the truth is this, it wasn't bad to be born premature while black because of something wrong with the baby. It was bad because of what America did next. Scope News tells the truth. Here are the facts. Eugenics-era documents and early 20th century medical publications regularly use terms like weaklings and defectives to describe premature infants, often linking them to intellectual disability. Incubator care for premature babies was controversial in the early 1900s because some physicians and eugenicists believed that saving preemies interfered with natural selection. In 1964, a segregated nursery in Tampa was documented as having only one isolette for 15 premature black babies, according to accounts in pediatric medicine archives. Modern data confirms that black infants are still nearly twice as likely to be born premature and more likely to face serious complications due to structural racism, access gaps, and chronic stress. Wilma Rudolph's early life and athletic legacy are documented in Olympic histories and biographies from the U.S. National Women's History Museum and Historical Press Archives. Legal disclaimer. This Scope News report is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, and should not be used in place of professional health care. The historical terms used in this report reflect language and beliefs of past eras, and are included only to document the systems of racism and medical neglect that impacted black families across generations. Scope News aims to report historical truth as accurately as possible, while acknowledging the limitations of available records, archival restrictions, and licensing boundaries that may affect visual content or named examples. Viewer discretion is advised, as this report discusses themes of infant mortality, racism in healthcare, disability stigma, and generational trauma. If you are currently navigating a premature birth or caring for someone who is, please seek support from licensed neonatal and maternal healthcare professionals, advocacy organizations, and community resources.